Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus daily with The Center Square. You can get the headlines in your inbox by going to thecentersquare.com and subscribing to the newsletter. And also you can get this podcast wherever you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus and you'll be able to find it. Now with The Center Square. So you'll notice that rebranding. Okay, we got a couple of things got to tackle on this Friday. One, you've got the issue of whether or not non-citizen illegal immigrants in the country are considered the people when it comes to the Second Amendment. If you recall, the case in the district court said that an illegal alien caught with a firearm was improperly charged because he has a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Well, the government pushing back on that in the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals earlier this week. We'll review some of those arguments coming up. We'll also give you a bit of a status update on some of the other lawsuits there are concerning Illinois firearms, from no update on the gun ban in the 7th Circuit, and long timeline for the Beavis case out of Naperville, stretching on to later on this year. Plus the Schoenthal case where you've got the prohibition on concealed carry on mass transit, that as well. Still waiting on some kind of outcome there. So we'll give you an update on all of that and more in the last segment. But up next, a lot of action on immigration in Illinois, and a lot of reaction. Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday getting, hit with questions about the cost to taxpayers and the threat of illegal aliens in some of these communities. But it looks like the Trump administration going full effect with deportation efforts. So we'll look at some of those numbers as well. It's Illinois in Focus daily with The Center Square. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll see it now says The Center Square. So make sure that that's correct. Just click that like button, notification, get the bell there so that you get updated each and every time we go live here with Illinois in Focus. All right, so stay tuned. Tons to tackle here. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for waking up with me each and every weekday morning. I just realized something. This was set to private. So if you guys on YouTube are going to be able to watch this, we got to go public. All right, that's part of doing this right here in the comfort of my own digs. Save that. So you guys are going to come into the show on the first segment. So that's good. But there was a whole 3-minute intro that you might want to rewind and catch just to make sure you're with it here with The Center Square. All right. It's Illinois in Focus daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and much more to come here each and every weekday morning with The Center Square. It on private, went 3 minutes, and people are just now jumping into the chat room, so making it public works. It's Friday after all, so I even got the Friday head hair, so what are you gonna do about that? All right, stay tuned. We'll get to what's up next with immigration in the state of Illinois.
Literally threatening people all across the country. How can you say that we're overreacting somehow? We're not. They're the ones that I'm talking about. Donald Trump and his administration, Tom Homan, people at the Department of Homeland Security. They're the ones that are threatening people, again, who are law-abiding, who are often the anchors of their communities.
But still, they're here illegally. That was Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday getting hit with questions about, the ongoing efforts of the Trump administration in combating illegal immigration. Welcome in. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop here with the Center Square. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay updated with us each and every weekday morning with thecentersquare.com in your inbox. Get the newsletter and get the podcast where you get podcasts. All right, so ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement on X, they are posting updates as to their enforcement efforts. So as of yesterday, 538 arrests, 373 detainers lodged. So we'll be getting those updates throughout. And what does it look like for a place like Illinois, right? It's not just ICE. Now you got the Wall Street Journal reporting that the Trump administration has actually given the ATF, the DEA, and the U.S. Marshal Service the ability to arrest illegal immigrants. So that's going to add potentially 10,000 new federal agents to that squadron of deportation efforts. So we may see a lot of videos circulating very similar to this, which was shared on X, purporting to be from Chicago. So you could see you've got some activity. Looks like some kind of officers of sorts are apprehending an individual. And again, purportedly this was in Chicago. That individual showing a little bit of resistance, but nonetheless still being ushered off by men with badges and vests. So again, you'll see more videos of these. And in some cases, you may even have the instance of families with network TV cameras around them having this splashed on news, and is kind of foreseen even before the November election with Trump advocates fielding those questions about the optics of this. What's it going to look like? How is that going to be played politically? So we're going to have a lot of different angles to look at on all of this, but clearly a lot of a lot of eyeballs all across. But listen, it's not just, the ICE and now ATF and other federal officers getting the green light to apprehend illegal immigrants in the country illegally. Apparently, you've also got the Trump administration, the DOJ, going after some of these nonprofit immigration law firms of sorts. Here is video from Brian Crandall, NBC 10, saying federal agents take boxes of files out of the office of Providence lawyer Joseph Molina Flynn, who specializes in immigration work. FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office won't say what the raid's focused on, but it appears to have been linked in the works for a while, not just the last few days. So carrying out boxes from an immigration lawyer. So again, multi-pronged here, right? It's not just the ATF and the ICE and other federal agents going out there and enforcing immigration law. Likely you've got the possibility of the Department of Justice taking other actions and investigating. So maybe that's going to see even more news stories come out, especially when you consider how much tax dollars are involved in the immigration fight, right? Illinois spends $1 billion plus. It's not just for housing. It's not just for education. It's food. It's also lawyer services and all the money that's going to nonprofits operating some of these shelters. So Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday was asked about whether or not he's had the Trump administration reach out to him to discuss more about these immigration efforts and trying to deport people in the country illegally.
I don't have an update for you. The federal government has not communicated with the state of Illinois. That is an indication to all of you that it's all about chaos and confusion. It is not about accomplishing something. And I've said many times, violent criminals who are undocumented in this country should be deported. There is a federal law that allows that deportation. But when we're talking about undocumented people who have been living law-abiding lives and raising families in the United States, we need comprehensive immigration reform. We need to give them an opportunity to stay in this country legally. That's clearly not something that Donald Trump believes in. And I will stand up for residents of the state of Illinois who are abiding by the law, who are holding down jobs, who are paying taxes. I mean, we should stand up for them. That is the right thing to do. But he's trying to tear things down.
So again, the governor saying that, they're here undocumented. Some people say that's not the right definition. The definition is illegal if they're here undocumented. So illegal alien. They're here undocumented, breaking federal immigration law. So when he says they're here law-abiding, otherwise, does that matter? They're here illegally. So, some of the questions, and I think there were at least 2 or 3 reporters who typically aren't at governor news conference events in Chicago asking some pointed questions, and the governor having to react to questions like, are state officials like the governor and the attorney general, who's put out notice that the state's local and state law enforcement have to abide by sanctuary state policies of not cooperating with federal immigration officials, and this goes to the DMV and the Department of Corrections and so on, even telling local county sheriffs that they can't cooperate with ICE to have beds in their jails so that they can have some place to put illegal aliens that ICE gathers up. So here's Governor Pritzker being asked about if he's overreacting.
What are you talking about? They are literally threatening people all across the country. How can you say that we're overreacting somehow? We're not. They're the ones that I'm talking about. Donald Trump and his administration, Tom Homan, people at the Department of Homeland Security. They're the ones that are threatening people, again, who are law-abiding, who are often the anchors of their communities, who are paying taxes in this country. They're the ones who are threatening people. We're just standing up for people who live in our state and in our city.
So more questions were hurled towards the governor during the news conference in Chicago yesterday. And one question, I believe, was from a friend of the show, William Kelly, an independent reporter out of Chicago, asking about the taxpayer cost of all of this and how do you justify that?
No, sit down. I'm going to answer that question. Now, we're going to move on. Let me answer. I'm going to answer your question. The money that we spend in the state of Illinois is about protecting the residents of the state of Illinois. That is what it is about. We will stand up for anybody who is standing up for the law. We follow the law in the state of Illinois. I'm very concerned that Donald Trump and the federal government is not going to be following the law. Indeed, they have proposed getting rid of birthright citizenship. For many families, imagine, my own family, many families that came to this country years ago, right, who have made successful lives over many years, that opportunity would be completely cut off. It's unconstitutional what they're suggesting. It's in the Constitution that we protect birthright citizenship. We all ought to stand up for the Constitution. This president does not.
So the governor, again, injecting other issues when asked about the taxpayer cost of funding housing, food, attorney services, education, for illegal immigrants. Now he may say that a lot of those are asylum seekers. Well, new Trump administration redefining what asylum is in the context of immigration. So maybe that's not the case anymore. I don't know. Again, we're going to be watching this closely. But the bottom line is, you've got Republicans in the state who have for several years now, ever since the policies of making the state a sanctuary state started under the Rauner administration, a Republican who passed and signed a law that dealt with this issue. But Governor Pritzker came in and signed a law that enhanced that, called the Trust Act, saying that local and state law enforcement cannot cooperate with federal immigration authorities if the detention is the lone issue thereafter. So State Senator Chapin Rose, when I chatted with him a couple of days ago, he said that, listen, these policies are putting people's lives in danger. And as evidence of what happened down in Georgia with the Lake and Riley case that led to national legislation that should be on Trump's desk soon, saying that if an illegal alien is caught committing a crime, then they can be held and deported. So making it clear. But you also have a case this past weekend in Urbana that Chapin Rose talked about, where 2 young women were killed in a auto wreck where a suspect fled, and that suspect, reportedly in the country illegally, was apprehended 2 hours from the Mexican border by U.S. Marshals just a couple of days ago. So again, Rose saying that people's lives are in jeopardy because of Democratic policy.
2 young ladies dead in Champaign County. And Governor Pritzker still supports a sanctuary state. The mayor of Champaign and Urbana supports sanctuary cities. The mayor of Chicago supports sanctuary cities. Okay? Why, on God's green earth, are we not letting law enforcement do their job and prevent not just the folks from coming into the United States, but also deporting the ones that are here. And I'm telling you what, right now, whether it's Lake and Riley or these two poor ladies from Urbana last weekend, the Democratic Party in this country and in this state are getting people killed.
Again, State Senator Chapin Rose there talking about his concerns of the state's sanctuary policies, which are being upheld by Governor J.B. Pritzker, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, and others. And we'll see how this plays out. It's Illinois in Focus Daily with the Center Square. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here as we break down things you need to know to get your day going. I'm Greg Bishop. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air. Non-citizens in the country illegally be considered part of the people when it comes to the Second Amendment? That's a question that the Seventh Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals had in front of them earlier this week, and we've got some of the highlights. Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell with the Center Square here on YouTube, waking you up each and every weekday morning with a live program and segments and news clips, not just from Illinois, but all across the country. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for the Center Square. And get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. So this case was pretty controversial. It's USA versus Herberto Cabral Flores, and federal district court said that this non-citizen who was arrested with a firearm after allegedly shooting 7 times in what they said was defensive warning shots in the Chicago area, he challenged the charge, saying that recent Supreme Court precedent under Bruin gives him the ability to be considered the people and able to keep and bear arms. Well, the case argued in front of the Seventh Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals had attorneys for the government trying to say the lower court got it wrong, and attorneys for Flores saying that he is a member of the community, has been here a long time, has an American-born wife and American-born kids, and this crime was in self-defense, and he's part of the people when it comes to being considered part of the country, though he's not here legally. But if you go to the Seventh Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals YouTube page, you can listen to this in its entirety. I'm just going to pull some clips here, and we'll kind of play through this together a bit. But you had the government's attorney in front of the 3-judge panel of justices making their case as to why they think this case should be reversed for the lower court's decision, and the appeals court should uphold the law that they say prohibits illegal immigrants from having firearms.
The district court erred when it determined that Section 922G5A is unconstitutional as applied to this defendant, because first, there should be no as-applied challenges to 922G5, only facial challenges, which the district court properly upheld. And second, even if as-applied challenges are allowed, there is no question that 922G5 is constitutional as to this defendant. Here, specifically, the district court erred when it found defendant was nonviolent, when in fact the defendant shot a firearm 7 times at a passing car without provocation and tried to shoot at a second passing car shortly thereafter.
Ms. Steindorf, is there anything about the Supreme Court's decisions in Bruin or Rahimi that undermine this court's conclusion in Meza Rodriguez that some illegal aliens can fall within the plain text of the people?
I think that Bruin and Rahimi again emphasize that the Second Amendment right, belongs to law-abiding citizens. Repeatedly referred to the right as belonging to citizens or Americans.
So again, you kind of hear some of the distillation of the arguments that the government's making in saying that this individual, Flores, was not a law-abiding citizen. He's a non-citizen. So what exactly defines the people? More on that issue with the government's attorney up there in front of the appeals court.
We focus on the people. How does the Supreme Court's opinion in Vertigo Cura's impact our analysis? There, I know the court was looking at the Fourth Amendment, but it defined and talked about people in terms of having a connection with the country, having a connection with the community. It did not talk about people in terms of citizens or Americans.
Yes, it did refer to those who are part of the political community or national community, just as Heller did in referring to the people as members of the political community. I think the distinction that we can make here would be the scope of the political community as we understand those individuals who have Second Amendment rights.
So again, what defines the people is an interesting thing I think the appeals court's going to have to tackle here in this question. But obviously, this case, when it came out, last year sometime, it really made a lot of people in Illinois think, well, if a non-citizen is considered a person, an undocumented individual, according to a federal district judge, is considered a person, then why are Illinois residents required to have a firearm owner ID card in order to legally buy and possess firearms and ammunition, right? Why have to get a document to do that when a federal district judge says even undocumented people have a right to keep and bear arms? So this really is an interesting pivotal case that the appeals court heard. But obviously, with these lawsuits against gun regulations, a lot of it's stemming from the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin precedent the U.S. Supreme Court had about text, history, and tradition, right? If you have to look at the text of the Second Amendment, does the law violate the plain face of that, right? A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So once they match it up with the text, then they have to show history and tradition, right? Look at analogs, similar laws from the past, and how that works in. So the government says text and tradition are there.
It's the tradition of barring firearms possession by those individuals who have not demonstrated trustworthiness or loyalty to the government.
Yes, Your Honor, that is one of the government proffered kind of two historical traditions. One of them is most evidenced by the loyalty laws. Those that will not that are untrustworthy adherents to the law.
Now, the government's attorney, Tuesday, in front of the it was Wednesday. What's today, Friday? Yeah, I'm losing track of days, guys. I apologize. Live to tape here. But on Wednesday, the government's attorney talked about the loyalty laws they used to prop up their argument that Flores should not be given the right of the people to keep and bear arms.
Specifically.
What about if the same law, though, is attempted to be utilized, say, in a G1 context, where we're talking about a dangerousness analysis versus a allegiance analysis? Does that present a problem?
I think that's where Rahimi teaches us that we're looking for principles of the laws. And so by the government proffering the loyalty laws, I take your question to be in both the G1 context and the G5 context. There is the common thread here of felons not abiding by the law and those unlawfully in the country, also, not authorized to be in the country. So because Rahimi teaches us to look at the principles of the historical tradition, certainly both can be proper analogs in both circumstances.
So again, looking at the text, history, and tradition of these things, the government says that they have it on their side, and plus they say that Flores was a dangerous individual.
Does not apply to all non-citizens, as perhaps you could make the analogy to the category of the felon. And so here, especially, I think categorically, it's appropriate, in the historical tradition supports being able to disarm that category of individuals. If there are no further questions, the government would request to reserve the remaining time for rebuttal.
So again,
That's fine.
the
Thank you, Ms.
government,
Steindorf.
the government first up sharing their thoughts, saying they have the text, history, and tradition rights, that Flores is not here legally, they shouldn't be allowed to have a firearm or have the right of the people to keep and bear arms. The defense got up on Flores's behalf and said that he is part of the people. And fire that clip off. Here we go.
Citizen kids, husband to a U.S. citizen wife, attending public schools in Chicago starting at the age of 10. He is part of the people. The government wants the test to be political community closely associated with U.S. citizenship and the electorate. They do this by selectively choosing descriptive rather than prescriptive phrases from Heller, Bruin, and Rahimi. But
Mr. Brisbane, before you go too much further, can I just clarify, are you appealing and challenging both the facial and as applies, or are you focused on as applied?
Well, certainly
I know you're doing as applied. Are you also appealing the facial determination?
Yes.
Or I guess the government has appealed, but are you arguing that 920?
So essentially what that means is as applied to Flores, they're challenging it, but they're also challenging it on its face. So they're essentially saying that they want the appeals court to find the law unconstitutional for everybody, so that anybody who is in the country, legal or not, they're part of the community, then they are the people. So more from the defense talking about that issue of being the people.
In terms of the government's test is not supported in terms of who is a member of the people, is not supported by case law. In terms of, as we mentioned, the Supreme Court has decided that undocumented folks have First Amendment protections, Fourth Amendment protections, Fifth Amendment protections when they have come within the United States and developed substantial ties. And yes, my client does have criminal convictions, but the nature of his criminal convictions were looked at by the district court, and they were not violent in nature. I mean, these reckless conduct misdemeanor convictions, possession of cannabis, driving on a suspended license, and obstruction identification are not reasons for someone to be stripped of their Second Amendment rights.
Can you just tell me what his sentencing exposure would be if we were to reverse the dismissal of the indictment?
I didn't capture that part, but I would imagine that, a felon with a firearm or somebody who's getting a firearm charge that would be a felony, it's going to be some time in prison. Another question to that issue here, to the defense of Flores, asking whether or not non-citizens in the country illegally can have firearms and be part of the people with the right to keep and bear arms.
I wouldn't becoming a citizen or starting the process to be here legally be that exception here, or that out for the individuals?
Well, the process, this is where I think the amici and the government get it wrong. It's not that just someone can say, I want to be a citizen and then swear allegiance or start an...
So there is a process, right? And that process, is that enough when you start it to be considered part of the people and you're working towards your citizenship status? Again, something that the appeals court's asking about, because they're considering that when they have this case decided. When? Who knows? Could be months. But the defense was asked about the shooting incident itself that Flores was arrested after.
In any event, was it really correct, do you think, to say that the circumstances of the possession of the gun on the night of the arrest were nonviolent? I mean, firing a gun in public at passing cars, even if the shots were meant as a warning, doesn't strike me as nonviolent. And we have certainly seen enough of this sort of thing where innocent people are literally mowed down.
The district court took a look at this. The district court had the full video in front of the court and took a look at all the circumstances surrounding that night. Stripping people of Second Amendment rights because of a criminal history or because they are not responsible are not reasons supported by case law, as Rahimi has shown.
Well, others may disagree with that, as why it's a controversy in the courts. But another question here before we wrap things up on this case.
Does it make any difference whatsoever that this was not his neighborhood?
Well, while he was living in Cicero during that period, he went to grammar school in Little Village. He lived in Little Village most of his life, and he continues to live in Little Village now. This idea that it was not his neighborhood is not taking all of his history into account. While he wasn't living in Little Village at that specific time, that's where he's from, and that's where he continues to live now.
So the question again from the defense is saying, hey, we need to throw this whole law
If you
out.
fall outside of the people and don't have the Second Amendment protection, if there are some individuals who fall outside of the people, then it can't be facially unconstitutional.
Well, we think that Bruin's first step talks about the conduct of an individual, and we think that the plain text of the Second Amendment can cover the conduct of an individual that's not part of the people. And then we move to...
So you think even if you're not part of the people, that the Second Amendment protects, that you could still get Second Amendment protection?
Well, that's what they're ultimately arguing in court, and we'll see what the appeals court has to say about this issue. Updates on other gun challenges. No updates on the gun ban challenge in front of the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. We're still waiting on a schedule, right? They've got the case after the district court, Judge Stephen McGlynn, found the law banning semi-automatic firearms and magazines over certain capacities in Illinois unconstitutional. The appeals court has that now. We're just waiting on a schedule. For the Viramontes case in Cook County, that's a gun ban challenge for Cook County that also includes the state's ban. Not really much going on there other than a note from when it was argued on November 12th in the appeals court. So we'll be looking for that. You've got the Beavis case versus Naperville. That's still in the Northern District, and it's got a long timeline here. Looks like April 30th. Discoveries needed May 7th, 2025. They'll have a status hearing. Disclosures due by May 16th. So on. It goes on from there with depositions and experts conducted by August 31st of 2025. So quite some time there. Also, you've got the various briefs that are due for the Schoenthal case. That has also come through. You've got the state and Cook County and their defense of the case of challenging the concealed carry prohibition on mass transit. So that's another case we're following as well. Lots going on in Illinois. All right, that's why you can wake up each and every weekday morning here with The Center Square. Get Illinois in Focus daily in your inbox. Subscribe to the newsletter at thecentersquare.com. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air and you can stay updated throughout the day. But wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus daily. That's all I got for you on this Friday. Monday, we're going to take a look at the Madigan case because they're in closing arguments right now. You've got the defense giving their arguments today after the prosecution gave their closing arguments. We'll have a rebuttal. Reporter Jim Talamonte's been in there, and he's been giving a great breakdown. Headlines you can read right now at thecentersquare.com. So we'll go through some of that. We'll also talk about some dashboards that Illinois has put out about firearms, violence, and some of the things that are going on there. Plus, we've got to talk about State Senator Chapin Rose's legislation. He hopes to have a requirement for photo ID, ending drop boxes, and other election security and integrity issues. So a lot to tackle on Monday. All right, so we'll be back at it then. If you're not waking up with us for the live show and joining the chat, well, you can get the podcasts as the replay. Just find Illinois in Focus anywhere you get podcasts. And don't forget about the weekend edition where myself and the Center Square's editor, Dan McCaleb, we discuss the news and break things down for you. So full plate of stuff for you to keep updated with Illinois. Go to thecentersquare.com, get the newsletter, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell for The Center Square here on YouTube. Yes, you noticed it right. America's Talking Network is now The Center Square. So you can get Illinois in Focus daily here. You can get news clips from Illinois. You can get segments from the show, but also you can get conversations and news clips from Washington, D.C. And all across the country. So thecentersquare.com and here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.